Hello and welcome to Swankus Media's very first YouTube channel, where we go over anything from politics to sports to entertainment, and I break things down simple. I do not like to complicate anything or talk with really huge words, so if you like that kind of content, you may want to subscribe to me and see what's going on. So right now, the first big topic that we're going to talk about is gerrymandering. Had no clue what gerrymandering meant not terribly long ago. I had to look it all up, and now is a perfect time to kind of get into that knowledge. So what does it mean? And I'm going to break this down simple. You have a state, you have red sides and blue sides. You're going to want to redistrict, right? Create districts in your state that has your voting populace strongholds, okay? Around cities, around big urban centers, right? If they're all voting red or all voting blue, you're going to want them in your district, okay? So that's what basically gerrymandering means, is redrawing districts around your populace. What are the advantages of that? Well, the more people you're responsible for, the more House seats you get, more representatives in the House for your state. That's huge when it comes time for voting and passing laws. Okay, so that's why there's such a big deal going on in Texas right now. So where did that term even come from? If we pop over to The Hill, love it or hate it, it's a decent source for news. Yes, it can be swayed either way. This article written by Republican Byron Donalds out of Florida. I only grabbed the facts because it named a lot of good answers in there for what I'm looking for. So gerrymandering. The word gerrymander, and it's this section of the article right here, okay? The word gerrymander originated from Boston Gazette published political cartoon depicting a newly drawn serpent-like district in Massachusetts by Jeffersonian Republicans, formerly known today as the Democratic Party. The man who signed off on this map, Eldridge Gerry, okay? He then became the fifth vice president, all right? So this was done in 1812. So to put a time frame on this was done in 1812. So Eldridge Gerry had this weird district on the map that was in the shape of some kind of serpent, or AKA a salamander. And so the oppositionists took gerrymander, Gerry and salamander, and merged them together to create gerrymander, okay? So silly name, but 1812, that's what they came up with, and it's stuck ever since, okay? So the first instance of doing this was prior to 1812, but there's really not a date stamped on it, because there obviously was no name for it until 1812, okay? So that's basically where this came from. Now, they tried to solidify this and give it a little bit of rules in 1865. It says in this article right here, this section, it wasn't until Republican-appointed Chief Justice Earl Warren ruled that all state voting districts must have roughly equal populations. I don't know if they do. Under this ruling, the court also added that states must update their federal congressional districts every 10 years, which is when the census is, and that each of the 435 members represent that same number of citizens. The Voting Rights Act of 1965, which notably received more no votes from Democrats than Republicans, which is odd because the Democrats invented this, but they didn't want these restrictions on it, also helped ensure more equitable districts. So that's basically it in a nutshell, all right? So that's what's happening in Texas. So in order to pass this in Texas, you have to have a vote, all right? And the Democrats have fled Texas, and Abbott's not happy about it, all right? So some states, which we'll go over in this article here, some states can have their state troopers retrieve these people and bring them back, all right, and send them back to Texas and vote. Some states don't, which is why they went to Illinois. It's funny that it's Illinois, right? And that's what the head of this article right here states. Texas Dems ripped for cartoonishly dumb strategy to flee to a blue state notorious for gerrymandering. Illinois is one of the most gerrymandered states in the country, right? It is nearly maxed out. There's really not any more changes unless it fills up with 1 million more people, which is not going to happen. It's a terrible state. But unless it does, there's really no need to redistrict anymore, okay? People are leaving rather than flooding that state. So back to Abbott in Texas, and let's see what he has to say. So basically, Greg Abbott said Monday that he has ordered the arrest of Texas Democrat lawmakers who left the state in an effort to halt plans from the Texas House to pass legislation that entails a highly controversial redistricting map. Abbott said that he ordered the Texas Department, or the DPS, to arrest and return any members to the House chambers who has abandoned their duty to Texas. So this is a pretty big deal, okay? This order will remain in effect until all missing Democrat House members are accounted for and brought to the Texas Capitol. And I believe the deadline for this is like August 20th or something like that. I'd have to look that up again. There's about 50 of them that fled to New York, Chicago, and Boston to put a stop to the proposed redistricting measures. To me, that's a very cowardly move. All right. That is not showing, the Democrats are not showing strength by doing this. By fleeing, it's just that. It's cowardly. Right. So, I would say the same exact thing if Republicans were doing this. Stay, do your duty, represent your state as you're hired to do, voted to do. Okay. Furthermore, by fleeing the state, Texas House Democrats are holding hostage critical legislation to aid flood victims and advance property tax relief. There are consequences for dereliction of duty, Abbott said in a press release. All right. So like I said, it's a pretty big deal. So is it legal though? All right. So they call for an arrest, but is it legal or illegal to flee the state to avoid a quorum so they don't have to vote? All right. So I've looked this up on WFAA.com. All right. So it states plainly here. Here's what we know about Texas law on quorum breaking. So breaking a quorum is not against the law. All right. So that is legal. It says right here, yes, it is legal. Democratic lawmakers did not break the law by breaking quorum or when they left the state on Sunday. However, House rules allow the legislature to issue civil arrest warrants to compel the attendance and retention of its members. What exactly is a civil arrest, right? That doesn't sound like it's like they're breaking any laws and it's a formal arrest. What does that exactly mean? So it says right here, in a social media post ahead of the quorum break, Paxton said his office stands ready to assist local, state, and federal authorities in hunting down and compelling the attendance of anyone who abandons their office and their constituents for cheap political theater. All right. So, however, because breaking a quorum is not a criminal offense, federal authorities have no authority to compel lawmakers to come back to Texas. However, there is consequences. Republicans do have a method to punish quorum breakers. In 2021, Democrats left the state in an unsuccessful bid to prevent the Republicans-controlled legislature from revising Texas election laws. So this is not new for these Republicans. They flee a lot. In 2023, the Republicans responded by implementing $500 a day fine on any legislature who breaks quorum and stripped Democrats of all committee chairmanships. That's a big deal right there because it is not easy to get into these committees. All right. They have a lot of work to do. So they are going to be stripped of that. Right. And $500 a day. So, of course, based on that, the Democrats sued, naturally, in 2021 to prevent their arrest after breaking quorum. The Texas Supreme Court sided with Republicans and ruled that the House has the authority to physically compel the attendance of absent members. So, right now, none of them seem to be afraid of any of this. But I do know that a lot of them did raise money, which also is come into question. You cannot fundraise or can't use campaign money to pay for your fines. Okay. But they are raising money to pay for them. So that's going to have to be hashed out as well. But this is even crazier. If the Democrats broke quorum and remained in the state or fled to Republican-controlled state with a governor willing to cooperate with Republican lawmakers, that legislature, the legislators could be placed under civil arrest and brought back to the Capitol. The speaker could then lock the doors and force legislators to stay in session. That's the section right here. Even though Illinois will not cooperate with Texas law enforcement, Governor Abbott still ordered the Texas Department of Public Safety to enforce the civil arrest warrants signed by House Speaker Dustin Burrows. That is nuts. They could actually lock them in there. That's crazy. So $500 a day. That's what they can expect, and stripped of all their chair status, right? They're not chair status. They're what do you call it? I just said it. Committees, right? So that's what they're facing right now. There also has been rumored that I heard, well, it actually says it right here. Abbott inflamed tensions by suggesting that the Democrats may have accepted bribes in exchange for skipping the vote, calling it a potential felony. Well, there's also threat that he's going to remove them from office for dereliction of duty, right? However, legal scholars note the governor cannot remove legislators from office himself. Abbott's statement, referencing a non-binding opinion from the attorney general that suggests a court might have that power. It's a theory that's never been tested in Texas. I have a feeling Abbott will want to test that because he's fed up. The special session of the Democrats are fleeing. Ends August 19th. That was close. I said the 20th. However, Governor Greg Abbott has the authority to call as many special sessions as needed to get legislation passed. If Democrats continue to break quorum, Governor Abbott has until the candidate filing deadline, December 8th, to get the new congressional maps passed. So I have a feeling this is going to get passed one way or another. Okay, so they're fighting tooth and nail to not, sit for a vote, but one way or another, this is going to get passed. So other states that have done this, excuse me, you're looking at Maryland. So as you can see, Maryland, Annapolis, Baltimore, Frederick, Cumberland, all the heavy populous cities, all blue. Republicans get one seat, right? One lone seat, because this is very rural out here. All right. So, that's why it's laughable that, they're fighting so hard in Texas. Now, Texas, where's that map? Let's see. Here we go. I had lost it, but basically you're seeing the proposed districts for this decade and then current, right? So you can see the blue would get trimmed down heavily. And the areas that were borderline for Trump over here would then become a lot more solidified. All right. So you're going to see like all these sections, all these light pink sections are now deeply red. All right, so you're going to see more House seats because the Republicans are going to be in charge of more people if this redistricting gets voted through. All right, so that's essentially what's happening in Texas. So to wrap this all up, you have a state that wants to get redistricted to benefit Republicans. You have the Democrats really opposed to it. They flee the state so they don't have to vote. They're cowards. They are neglecting their duties. There's other legislation that has to be passed, including benefits for flood victims. This is the state that it's in right now. That is not any kind of personal opinion. Those are the facts. Okay, so what do we do? Well, it's going to be very interesting in the next several days to see if these people come back, see if civil arrest warrants are actually issued and what they would do about them. I may come back for a part 2 on this one because it is huge and it does affect, it affects everybody really, because it gives Republicans a lot more voting power in the House. So this will affect everybody. So leave me some comments. I read every single comment. I respond to them. And I appreciate it if you would subscribe, share it with your friends, like the video. Tell me what I need to do better. I ramble on a lot. I do go through a lot of tabs. Any instruction would be taken and needed. Okay. So thank you for watching. Have a great day.